Good evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre this Friday night. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight, as ceasefire violations along the line of control and international border sharply increase, is there now a real danger that the ceasefire will collapse? What can India do to ensure the guns fall silent? Is Islamabad making excuses? What are the options to save what has been the biggest confidence-building measure between the two countries? Well, the government today said that no date had been fixed for senior military officers of India and Pakistan to meet, despite the increase in ceasefire violations. The decision to have the Director Generals of Military Operations or the DGMOs of both countries meet was the only real outcome of the Prime Minister's meeting with Nawaz Sharif in New York 3 weeks ago. But now, with incidents sharply increasing and civilians also getting hurt, the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister today said the situation has become more serious and he's called for India to take up the issue urgently. In fact, as we speak, another ceasefire violation is currently taking place. It is said to be the 10th ceasefire violation in the last 72 hours.
Civilians targeted by Pakistani fire from across the line of control, bringing back horrific memories of what life was like before the ceasefire came into effect in 2003. Bachano Devi is in shock. Her two daughters, aged 12 and 14 years, and her 10-year-old son were all injured in Pakistani shelling. The army says there have been more than 150 violations in the past 2 months alone. And with the number of ceasefire violations dramatically going up over the last few days, the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister says things have got more serious and it's time to take it up with Pakistan.
तय किया गया कि दोनों मुल्कों के जो आर्मी के डीजीएमओ हैं वो इसमें बात करके इसका कोई इलाज निकालेंगे बजाय ये कि इसका कोई हल निकालें लगता नहीं है कि इनके इरादे कुछ सही हैं.
Sources say terror groups are changing their strategy. They are shifting their focus from the LSE and are now targeting the international border in Jammu for infiltration. Sources in the security establishment say there are more than 40 training camps across the LSE and 700 militants ready to infiltrate. More ceasefire violations are likely just before winter sets in and snow blocks the passes.
काफ़ी लोग एलसी के पार इन्फिल्ट्रेशन की कोशिश में हैं. हमें ये भी खबर मिली है कि जो इनके बड़े बड़े टेररिस्ट लीडर्स वगैरह हैं वो भी इस इलाके में आकर बात कर रहे हैं.
Entire village migrated from border areas to safer places at the peak of Indo-Pak hostilities. A semblance of normalcy returned only after the November 2003 ceasefire. But the frequent ceasefire violations and firing from across the border has the old fears coming back to haunt. In Srinagar, Zafar Iqbal for NDTV.
Well, is there now a real danger that the ceasefire could collapse? It would be a very serious development if that was the case. The ceasefire was enforced in November of 2003. It has largely held to this day, but there has been this alarming rise in violations this year, and particularly, as we pointed out in that report, in the last 2 months alone. Joining us on the program tonight, Mr. Vivek Karju, former Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs. We have Dr. Radha Kumar, author and expert on ethnic conflicts and peace processes, also former interlocutor for Jammu and Kashmir. Dr. Mehboob Beg, Lok Sabha MP of the National Conference, the ruling party in Jammu and Kashmir, joins us from Srinagar tonight. And General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, the former Chief of Army Staff, is with us as well. Let me ask Mr. Karju first. Mr. Karju, the only constructive thing that came out of the Prime Minister's meeting in New York less than a month ago was that the military officers of the two sides would meet to de-escalate tensions, and yet we see the situation getting worse. Why do you think so?
Well, I think there is no interest in Pakistan to normalize the situation again, along the LOC and the international border. There's been a pattern to this activity since the beginning of the year. I think there are various reasons for it. One of these reasons is to provoke India so that the Pakistanis could be enabled to move some of their forces to the eastern border. They are having a pretty rough time on the western border and they want to draw the Americans in. I think to that extent the restraint that we are showing is commendable. But Nidhi, if you permit me, I'd like to draw a distinction between two kinds of activities. One is a certain dynamic along the LOC and the IB and J and K, especially the LOC, and which is, if I may say, a kind of a game which both armies play, and that's serious enough. But it's for people like me who've seen this over a long period of time, it's not alarming. The other is an activity of which actually takes place in the Pakistani hinterland, and what happens along the LOC is a symptom of that activity, which is to continue with terrorism or continue with pushing people across, and this is part now of the security doctrine of Pakistan. It's embedded in them.
So you don't believe it when Nawaz Sharif says that I'm willing to normalize relations with India?
Nawaz Sharif,
he's making a series of statements going out of his way, or I'm going to come to that in a bit actually, to talk about how much control he has there.
If I may just complete, it will take me a second more. No, you see, the problem is that the Pakistanis say that they are no control over the non-state actors. What they say are the non-state actors, and therefore, in a sense, they are washing their hands, and they have washed their hands over this activity. And that is the real rub. As long as this attitude and approach continues, there surely can't be a normalized situation along the LOC.